live. All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Dylan Hosier, and I serve as the Chief Advocacy Officer at the Israeli American Civic Action Network, or as our friends like to call us, ICAN. If you're new to ICAN, we're an organization dedicated to bringing Israeli immigrants and American supporters together to lead advocacy efforts for a better America, a more secure Israel, and a stronger U.S.-Israel alliance. I want to thank you for joining our first Nevada Election 2020 Town Hall, featuring 5 fantastic Republican women running in next Tuesday's primary. But first, before we jump into the town hall, I'm very pleased to introduce ICAN Nevada's chairwoman, Sigal Chana. Sigal, would you like to say a few words?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Sigal Chana. Some of you ladies I know, some of you ladies I am looking forward to get to know tonight. I look forward to hearing everybody's statements and answers tonight. And with that, good luck, and let's kick this off.
All right, thank you, Sigal. And also joining us is Mr. Milan Chatterjee. Milan, let me bring you in. I'll let you introduce yourself. Go ahead, Milan.
Perfect. Thank you, Dylan. Good evening, friends. My name is Milan Chatterjee, and I'm the Nevada Vice Chair for ICAN. I'm also an attorney here based in Las Vegas. It's been a great honor for me to be a part of this great organization that stands for civil rights in the Jewish community and that combats anti-Semitism, like the boycott, divestment, sanctions, Israel movement. As you know, the U.S. and Israel has a very strong alliance, and ICAN has been working very hard to further that alliance. And I look forward to hearing from tonight's candidates. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Milan. All right. And now I'll go ahead and introduce our candidates. First up, we have Randy Reed, candidate for Nevada's 4th Congressional District.
Hello.
And next up, we have Lisa Krasner from Nevada's 26th Assembly District. And we have, next, April Becker, candidate for Nevada's 6th Senate District. And next up, Michelle Mortensen, candidate for Nevada's 37th Assembly District. And finally, Dr. Carrie Buck, candidate for Nevada's 5th Senate District. All right, thank you all for joining us here tonight. For those of you watching on YouTube or Facebook, if you have a question, please submit it in the comment section below, and we will bring it up. And we'd like this evening to be more of a free-flowing conversation amongst ourselves and our viewers. We have a few general topic areas I'd like us to cover, but first I'd like each of you to introduce yourself and tell us why you're running. What we'll do is we'll go ahead and start with Randy Reed. So Randy, why don't you go ahead and tell us why you're running, introduce yourself.
Okay, well, I am Randy Reed, and I'm running for Nevada's 4th Congressional District. I just wanted to start off by obviously saying thank you to ICAN, who has been a supporter of mine since basically day one, and so I'm so appreciative. But I'm also appreciative for the fact that you guys are putting these town halls together so people get a chance to learn about us a little bit more. So I am a mom. I'm a small business owner with my husband. We have a manufacturing company that we started in a 2-car garage. I've been in the construction and development industry for over 20 years. And I have been involved in this community, which is the most important, whether it's through charity, whether it's through mentorship programs. And I love Nevada. And so that segues into why I'm running. I want to do better. I see a need, I fill a need. And right now I'm seeing the need in Congress. We don't have strong leaders with really strong business sense and common sense. And it's time for a change. We're sick of career politicians. Now more than ever, we're seeing the need for quick action, level head, and knowing how to really operate a business, knowing how to run budgets. And that's really why I wanted to get involved. So here I am, I'm involved. We're 5 days away from the primary, and it's going like gangbusters.
Great, well, we are glad to have you with us, and very proud to have you as one of our endorsees.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Randy. And next up, we will go ahead and bring in a very, very dear friend, Assemblywoman Lisa Krasner. Assemblywoman, it is so good to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Dylan. Thank you. It's wonderful to see you. And I would first like to say thank you to ICAN for giving me this opportunity to be here tonight. This is a wonderful opportunity. My name is Assemblywoman Lisa Krasner, and I have served for 2 terms in the Nevada legislature. I'm currently running for my 3rd term. Assembly District 26 is in northern Nevada. It starts in Incline Village and encompasses Arrow Creek, Field Creek, Double Diamond, Damani Ranch, Hidden Valley, and any of those areas in Southwest Reno that people might be familiar with. Although I have supporters and friends all over the state. And as an assemblywoman, when I do bring a law or vote on a law, it affects everyone in our entire state. When I am not working as an assemblywoman, I am an adjunct professor at Truckee Meadows Community College in the Political Science Department, where I teach courses on the United States Constitution and Nevada Constitution. Prior to that, I taught at the University of Phoenix, also in political science area. Prior to that, I was a commissioner for the State of Nevada Commission on Aging and Disability for our senior citizens. And prior to that, I served for 7 years as a commissioner for the City of Reno Recreation and Parks Commission, advocating for a family-friendly environment in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. Again, really good to see you. And I want to tell everybody who's watching, Assemblywoman Krasner is a very dear friend to the community and a fantastic legislator for the state of Nevada. So we're very lucky to have you all the way around.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up, we will bring up April Becker. April.
Hi. Thank you for having me, Dylan.
Sure.
My name is April Becker. I'm running for State Senate in District 6, and I'm a mother. I've got 3 children. I'm an attorney here in town. I'm a business owner. You asked, the question was, why did we decide to run? And I don't want to take everybody the entire time for this. Short and quick. I feel that our state is lacking in leadership right now. I don't like the direction that we've gone. I feel that 2019 was one of the most anti-business legislative sessions in the history of our state. I just kind of got tired of complaining, and I decided I would do something about it. I feel that right now we aren't being represented. And that's exactly what I want to do for the people in my district. I want to represent them, and I want to implement laws and legislation that helps them and doesn't hinder them. So.
Good answer. Great answer. Well, we hope to get you up in Carson City. All right. Thank you, April. And next up, we'll bring up Michelle Mortensen. Michelle, great to have you with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for your endorsement, and thank you so much for this opportunity. I am Michelle Mortensen, and I am a candidate for Assembly District 37 in the Summerlin and northwest part of Las Vegas. And most people in the community know me from my many years on television. I've been in television news for 18 years, 6 of which were right here in the Las Vegas Valley, where I worked as a consumer advocate for one of the TV stations here, solving problems for Nevadans. I am very proud of the fact that we refunded Southern Nevadans $1.7 million during my time at Channel 8 when they were scammed or ripped off from fraud and corruption. That's essentially what I did every single day, expose fraud and corruption. And I eventually left TV news and decided it was time to get into the fight right here in the state of Nevada to make real change. We need to build a better Nevada. We need to better communicate our message on how we can provide for our community, how we can provide for the middle class, how we can provide for businesses, how we can provide for every aspect of this community. And sadly, so many electeds and politicians today, they just don't know how to communicate. And I do. I've spent most of my life focused on politics and consumer advocacy. I have a degree in broadcast journalism and a degree in political science, and I've covered some of the biggest political events of our lifetime, from the fall of Baghdad to the Iraq War to presidential inaugurations to the death of Osama bin Laden and so much more. I've been on the front lines covering these events and also advocating for people in our community. And we just truly need people who make a difference. We have a lot of problems that we were facing in Nevada before COVID-19. We had a lot of problems we are facing in Nevada before the economic shutdown. And with those additional things that have been added to 2020, we need people who can bring real solutions, real negotiation, and can really get things done. It's not a time for talk anymore. It's a time for action. And that's why I'm running for Assembly 37.
Outstanding. Well, thank you so much. And I'll tell you, I'm a big fan of KLAS, as you know. Well, let's do a quick shout out to George Knapp, huh? He's one of my favorites.
George Knapp, Area 51.
He's a good one. All right. And next up we have Dr. Carrie Buck. Dr. Buck, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm hoping you can hear me.
Yep, you're good.
Great. I came to Nevada to teach, and they were hiring teachers, and I couldn't wait to have my own classroom. It was a lifelong goal to impact youth. And so I spent the last 24 years teaching, and I was a building principal at CT Sewell, one of the lowest performing schools in 2006 in the entire state. And I took that school in 2014. It became National Title I school. So every year growing in student achievement. And it was National Title I school in 2014. And then I moved to Pinecrest Academy. It was one school and it was struggling a bit. And so we were worried about keeping our students at the school. And since then, we've grown to now nearly 6 schools. We have 5 schools with 6,500 kids. We're bringing another one on in Northern Nevada and really moving to impact kids in the charter school sector. And the reason that I want to run for state senate is I want to make a difference for all the students out there and their families. The students are our future, and education is so important for a foundation for Nevada's economy. I also want to make a difference for families that are out there struggling. And anyway, that's why I want to run for office.
Great. All right. Thank you, Dr. Buck. We will bring everybody back in the room here. And so it's just as a quick follow-up, Randy, you are hoping to get into Congress. The rest of you, besides Assemblywoman Krasner, will be new to Carson City. So what do each of you want to achieve? So Randy, let's start with you and think about and tell us about what you want to achieve when you get to Congress. And then Lisa, will go to you next.
Okay.
My basis has always been healthcare. I have suffered from pre-existing conditions for over 15 years, and everything in the gamut, whether it's high prescription drug costs, surprise billing from anesthesiologists, you name it, high premiums. I think every single person in the United States is suffering. And so my initial plan of attack is to figure out, where the downfall and the pitfalls are, and then work together across the line to figure out a plan that's going to work for the majority of Americans. Clearly, it's not a one-size-fits-all, but we're not even having the discussions right now, and it affects everyone, especially now when we have unemployment rates through the roof, especially here in Nevada, where the hardest hit. People can't afford the premiums. What are we going to do? And I don't think that's something that's being addressed right now. So that's first and foremost. I know some of the questions are going to address some of the things that I also want to do. So I'm going to leave it at that in essence of time.
Thanks, Randy. Now, Lisa, you have spent 2 sessions up in Carson City. You and I worked together last session on some very important legislation. You had some great achievements, by the way. AB 143 stands out in my mind as a phenomenal achievement. What would you want to achieve next session, and what would you advise your fellow candidates here tonight what to expect once they get to Carson?
Well, I don't know if I'm the one to ask for advice, but number one, of course, is respecting and upholding the United States Constitution and Nevada Constitution, because that's really our sworn duty as legislators. What's on the top of my mind for the next session, if the people are kind enough to re-elect me, is the coronavirus. The coronavirus has devastated our state, Dylan. It's really hurt our businesses, especially our small businesses, small business owners, and individuals who have been laid off work. I get an email or a phone call almost every day from somebody who is unemployed and trying to get a hold of the unemployment office and can't get through and needs that money, needs that check to buy food, to pay for their rent, their mortgage payment. I also get phone calls from small business owners saying, Lisa, we want to reopen. We need help though. And so first and foremost on the top of my list is addressing the issues that relate to the coronavirus. I want to reopen our state, reopen businesses, and get people back to work.
Sorry, I broke my own rule. I didn't unmute myself. Sorry about that. I was saying a lot of nice things about you. I think that you are exactly. I think you're exactly the person to seek advice from. I think that you stood strong, and it was an absolute honor to work with you in Carson City, and I look forward to doing it again next session. So,
thank you, and likewise.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. All right, next up, April. What would you like to achieve up in Carson?
I want to put Nevada first. I don't like some that we've had recently in the last couple of sessions. I don't think that our legislators are putting what's for Nevada first. I think that we need to start rolling back some of these regulations on our small businesses, especially now. We need to step back from over taxing, the oversight. I just feel next few months and years, we're going to have to do a lot to help our small come back and establish themselves. I think people are leaving our state. We need to find a way to bring them back. By doing that, we need to have jobs for them. I think that's going to be the most important thing. We've got a rough, but I think it can be done. And hopefully I'm up there working and helping bring our state back to where it should be.
I'll get it. I'm flying the plane and asking the questions at the same time. Sorry about that. Rochelle, what would you like to do when you get to Carson?
That's okay. This media thing, it's tough. It's tough.
You know.
Right now, if all of us are fortunate enough to be elected, we will be going to Carson City at, quite honestly, one of the most difficult times we have ever faced in the state of Nevada. We are truly, truly at a precipice. As we've seen over the past couple of years, the direction that Nevada has been going is entirely too socialist. There's been a socialist agenda at work. There's been an anti-business agenda at work. Last session alone, there were more than 60 bills that were passed that were anti-business. That is not building a better Nevada, and that's why each and every single one of us are running. We want to improve business. The economic shutdown that we have faced has cost us dearly. We are facing anywhere from a $1 to $2 billion shortfall in the state of Nevada for the next 2 years. That is incredible when you consider that for each year, we're only facing a budget of around $4.5 to $4.6 billion. That means there could be huge cuts on the table. So how do we face this huge economic shortfall, this huge deficit that we're facing, yet we still create incentives for small businesses to thrive and survive? How do we still continue to keep tourism and gaming and the things that have made Nevada so great something that is thriving? But we also can't forget education. I know so many of us here on this panel are mothers. I'm a mother of 2 little girls, and we cannot continue to be at the very bottom when it comes to education. We absolutely have to put our children first. And we have to do so much more than just say things like, oh, I'm for the kids, I'm for teachers. No, we have to have an actual plan that can be enacted. And that's not going to be done overnight when the way our Constitution is written, we meet for 120 days every 2 years. That means that we have to have actual plans in place that won't just be accomplished in one session, but will be accomplished over time, so that we can gradually get so much better. We can't make miracles happen overnight, but we can work on true progress to build a better Nevada. We also have to focus immensely on healthcare. When Obamacare was added to Nevada, we went from 300,000 on Medicaid to 600,000 overnight. Guess what we get to tackle in the next session? We'll pay Medicaid reimbursements, because for the first time ever, the state is going to have to take on part of that burden, and it's not going to be held entirely by the federal government as it has in the past. And we're doing this at a time where we're seeing unemployment at all-time highs at close to 33%, which is a depression level rating, which means more people may be added to Medicaid in the next few months once open enrollment happens. We have big problems in Nevada that need to be tackled, and we need people who are strong enough to tackle them. We need people who actually know what they're talking about and have experience in the business world, have experience in our kids' education, have experience in dealing with taxation and budgets, because now more than ever, we need real change, not just talking points from people who want to pretend that they're effective leaders.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. That's fantastic. Next up, we will go to Dr. Buck. There you go. Dr. Buck.
Thank you so much. I believe that government needs to work for us. And so we've definitely seen where things have failed Nevadans, with 100,000 people sitting in queue waiting on a check. They haven't had their unemployment check, haven't received one payment for over 2 months. And so that is an instance where government has failed the people. And so I want to do things differently and make sure that we are serving people. I want to bring accountability back to education. So I think education is definitely crucial in that we can't just lessen evaluation systems and expect to get outcomes for our state. I'm tired of being rated last in the nation with our education system, and have made my little impact, and there's pockets of excellence everywhere, but we need to make sure and look at people that are doing things correctly and replicate those best practices. So accountability for our tax dollars in education, increasing accountability around students, and incentivizing teachers who are high performers in growth. I want to make sure that, those 100,000 people that didn't get their unemployment and processed due to a failure in the current system is unacceptable. And I think healthcare is very important. So looking at access to healthcare, and also really helping out our small business community. We had 61 different bills that were anti-business passed this last session, and we should be ashamed of ourselves up there because of that. We need to incentivize businesses, and because businesses equal jobs, we need to get everyone back to work. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Buck. All right, so now we're going to go to our topics, and I think over the past, I guess it's been a week or so now, we have seen really, I would call it unprecedented civil unrest in this country. It's been different in different parts of the country. We know that in Las Vegas, a Metro officer, I think he's still on life support, is the latest I understand. I'll kind of let anybody who wants to jump in and speak on this first. I understand it's difficult. It's a very difficult situation. There's no easy answer. I don't think anybody has an answer right now for what's going on. I think that we do recognize that there are multiple challenges, maybe kind of conflating and coming together to cause this current unrest. But on the other hand, I think that maybe there is some things that we can do to improve on the state side in terms of law enforcement. So if anybody wants to jump in, go ahead. What's your sense? How do you see it? I'm just going to kind of let you guys take it from here. And what's your viewpoint? And what would you like to see changed, if anything? Who wants to go first? April? Here, I'll unmute you. Go ahead. There you go.
Okay. The first thing that comes to my mind is, if we want to talk about what happened and what led up to this, why was this officer still wearing a badge? He had multiple complaints. He'd been involved in multiple prior officer-related shootings. Why was he still there? And it comes down to oversight, accountability, ability of leaders that are over the police to be able to investigate them properly and do something about it. an officer is shown to be, a bad apple. But that didn't happen, and you have to wonder why. And I'm not as familiar with the laws in that state, but I am familiar with some of the things that have passed recently here in Nevada. Specifically SB 242, which my opponent sponsored, and it took away, it kind of tied the hands of the people that do investigations of officers like this and abuse complaints. It took, it gave officers that have been accused of this type of behavior, it gave them more rights than any other civilian that's been charged with something or accused of something. I think that the most important thing is when a flag has been brought up and someone that wears a badge has been shown to have behavior that's questionable, I think that the people in charge need to be able to investigate that person. And that's where the breakdown is. We have bad apples in every industry, every profession, attorneys, doctors, teachers, government officials. There needs to be accountability, and there needs to be a mechanism that allows those people, once a complaint is filed, that allows people to be investigated properly. So I think if that's been taken care of with all of these other, had 10 prior abuse complaints, if that had been taken care of properly, we wouldn't be here right now. There wouldn't have been a video because that wouldn't have happened. He would have been off the streets. So that's my take.
Assemblywoman.
Thank you, Dylan. The incident that occurred with Mr. George Floyd was a tragic incident, and my thoughts and prayers go out to his family members. I have reached out to the president of the Reno Sparks NAACP, Mr. Lonnie Feemster. He and I spoke at length. He said that he is opposed to the rioting. He is opposed to people looting. He said that he believes in peaceful protest, and the NAACP has followed in the footsteps of the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And always advocated for peaceful protest, which is our right under the First Amendment to the United States Constitution. He believes that these people who are coming in, being bussed in from out of state and destroying things, looting, setting fires, they're actually taking the NAACP and all their many years of good work of peaceful protest, they're taking them back. They're moving them backwards. They're undoing their good work. And the NAACP does not support looting, rioting, setting fires. They only support peaceful protest, which I also support, and I think we all do, because that's one of our rights under the United States Constitution. I think in the next legislative session, we need to address some criminal justice reform. I am also a supporter of our law enforcement community. I think they do a lot of great work. They work very hard. They put their lives on the line for our safety and our family's safety every day. But as one of the other participants said, there's good and bad in every profession. And so we need to all come together in a bipartisan fashion, and we need to take a look at the laws on the books to make sure they're fair for everyone.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. Michelle?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I think we all watched with horror what happened to George Floyd, and we said, how on earth did this happen for more than 8 minutes? And I think the visceral reaction that everyone had, saying this is repugnant, this is horrible, was a good thing. And immediately people wanted to protest peacefully, which is their constitutional right. And thank God we live in a country where we do have that freedom to protest. We do have that freedom of speech. As we all saw in the news news today, U.S. Navy vet Michael White was freed from Iran. Why was he even being held hostage in Iran? Because he spoke out against the Ayatollah. That is a country where if you speak out against something, you could be imprisoned. We don't live in a country like that. And that's what makes us so great. That's what makes the Constitution so great. And the peaceful protests are something everybody, I think, was okay with and wanted to see. And I'm very proud of Las Vegas because for the most part, we have seen some great peaceful protests. Unfortunately, over the weekend, things went horribly awry, and one of our officers was shot and is still on life support and fighting for his life. And we hate to see that. And we know that we support our police and they protect us and they do such great things for us. And we don't want to see that mix of violence when it comes to protesting. But we also do need to understand why people are protesting. We also need to understand the blight of systemic inequality that we have seen in the Black community, in the Jewish community, in so many communities. We have to acknowledge that it's there. We have to become more educated about it, and we have to be willing to have tough conversations. And that's what I love, because I'm seeing that happen right now in Las Vegas. Last night, outside of City Hall, there was a Black Lives Movement protest. It was immensely peaceful, and we saw Metro officers joining and walking with people together to show their support. And then afterward, they began to engage in conversation as to how we could start building these bridges, listening to each other's story, really getting to know one another, so that when it's time for reform, it's not just one group saying, hey, this is how we're going to do the reform, but it's a group coming together for conversation. I also think we have to applaud Assemblyman Tom Roberts, who is a former Metro officer, who immediately stepped up and said, we need to address these reforms. He wanted to call a special session immediately so that we could begin to have these conversations. We just don't want to ever lose sight of the fact that you can 100% be in support of our police. You can 100% be in support of our Constitution. You could be 100% in support of our right to protest. You can 100% be in support of ending systemic inequality, all at the same time. It's not a case of being one or the other, but we have to create safe spaces where we can communicate. We have to create places where we can actually hear what our friends and our community members are saying. The one thing I've always lived by is that community brings unity. It is very easy on a computer screen to type hateful things to someone that you've never met before. But when you actually know someone, when there's someone in your community, when they're your neighbor, your coworker, your friend, it's a lot harder to lob those types of attacks. When this community becomes stronger, we become more unified. And I think we're going to lead the way. We even saw Attorney General Barr today talk very clearly about how he was going to go after the bad actors, the extremist groups, with the evidence that they have of that. In fact, we had 3 arrests here in Nevada just yesterday with that, and that he is going to be looking at reform in the DOJ. So I really think we're seeing from a federal level and a state level and on a community level, we really are working towards one common goal. And I think this group of women is going to make sure that that happens.
Thank you, Michelle. You know, you bring up a great point about the bad actors. I myself, I live in Los Angeles, and I happen to live on Melrose Avenue, actually. So you saw Saturday night fires. I mean, it's right in front of my face. And these are people who I know are definitely not from my neighborhood. I saw a lot of out-of-state plates, And from what I saw, it was these Antifa types, or it was some kind of outside agitators that were driving a lot of the violence and the damage that we saw. And unfortunately, I think it reflected poorly on the Black community who was really hurting. You know, Michelle, you brought up a good point about federal investigations. I think, Randy, that's a good segue into you. If you were in Congress, what would you like to see happen?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I obviously concur with all of the statements made by all of the women. It's not obviously worth repeating everything that's been said because they're all very valid points, and I feel exactly the same way. There absolutely should be a federal investigation. And to April's point, you know, this officer had pre-convictions, or should have had convictions, excuse me. He's had plenty of complaints, and nothing was ever done. And that is really where the breakdown happens. And obviously, this is ICAN, you know, it relates to the Jewish population. And we too have felt our own form of racism, but obviously towards our religion, right? You've got your payas, you've got your yarmulke on, you've got your hat. there's more than 10 in a minion service. You're seeing it from top to bottom. We relate, but something needs to be addressed. And I agree with it's an education. We can't forget what has happened in our history, but we need to work on improving how we're going to move forward. No one should ever be discriminated against based on their color, their religion. It's unacceptable. And I think every single American felt horrible watching and didn't want to watch. Unfortunately, we're in this day and age of everything being televised. But it's just, it can't happen. It can't happen.
Thank you. Thanks, Randy. Dr. Buck, do you want to close this out on this?
Absolutely.
Thanks.
So in seeing, the George Floyd video, it was shameful. And I mean, absolutely, there is no place for hate. I am a wife of a law enforcement officer and know how much that he struggles, with, trying to make peace and trying to involve community and especially with his employees. And so I think it comes down to training and, like April said, where we need accountability. And unfortunately that, a lot of that goes away in the last session. With the Police Officers' Bill of Rights, it went away. And so we want to make sure that our officers are well trained and there is no place for hate.
Amen.
Thanks, Carrie. So we have a question from Rudy. And it's nice because it kind of segues us into our next kind of topic. How would you rate Governor Sisolak's response from the COVID-19 crisis to the recent riots? Let's start with the riots and then we'll move into the COVID-19 issue. Who wants to go first? Go ahead, Randy.
I can go first.
Okay, go ahead, Dr. Buck, go ahead.
I'll start this time. It's unfortunate that we saw our governor on the TV, I would say every 3 days during the COVID crisis. However, when our city was burning down and our communities did not feel safe, our businesses were, potential of being looted, and people did not feel safe, that we didn't have a strong presence of our governor who has control of our state, and definitely showed us with this whole response to COVID, where we were not allowed to be going, outside in groups of 50 or less, or 10 or less. And so, we saw him a lot and then we didn't see him. And so I would rate it a 2. Is it out of 10, Rudy?
Up to you. we'll let Rudy a message. Anybody else want to chime in?
I will. I'm not that gracious to give him a 2 personally.
Dr. Buck has to work with him when she goes to Congress.
Yes, I'm running for a federal position, so I can give him a negative. Honestly, I was at the Reopen Nevada rally, trying to rally for our small businesses. I'm a small business. I had to lay off half of my staff, and when you have a governor who is completely non-communicative, yes, he gave his press conferences every 3 days, but it was really just more or less to hear himself speak. We sat for over 3 weeks waiting to go into phase 1. And when we're finally waiting on the announcement of the date that he specifically chose, his announcement was, I'm not ready yet and I don't have a plan. And when we go back to the statistics, when you have a state that is the hardest hit because of our gig and hospitality workers, coupled with now what has become the largest, increase of unemployment and the highest rate in the country, you cannot have that unrest. It's reckless and it's irresponsible. And you cannot have a state of 3 million people sitting with a big question mark going, what do we do? It's a negative.
Okay. Michelle, go ahead.
Absolutely. I mean, I would say that it's been abysmal and abhorrent. And one of the reasons I think we can say that is that on Saturday evening, when riots were happening all over Reno, I found out on national news that the National Guard was being called in because of the situation there, but we had not heard from our governor. The following day, we did not hear from our governor, but we did get a nice still picture photo op of him in Reno acting like he was cleaning things up. We have still yet to hear from him about this. Today, even, he decided to come out a school to talk about the COVID crisis and how we've done such a great job as Nevadans, but he did not address the fact that there are 100,000 plus Nevadans who have yet to even be able to get through to unemployment, and we're going on by 75 days. We saw him quite frequently during the shutdown, now didn't we? Oh, wait, actually we didn't, because when he was supposed to tell Nevada what was going on, he chose to go on ABC Network News and let the nation know what was happening before he even decided to speak to his very own constituents, the people who elected him. And at every single press conference, it was like I was being belittled or punished by my father, where he would wave his finger and say, "I don't see what you parents are doing. Why are these kids playing basketball? They should be in homeschool with you." Oh, let's forget the fact that maybe, I don't know, we all have jobs and we're working from home as well. And that you can't just keep 5 and 8-year-olds locked in the house doing computer work all day. It's absolutely ridiculous. And when we have politicians who choose to respond that way, to talk down to their constituency, to not even talk to their constituency, and when there is total unrest in our state, they aren't even available, that is a huge problem. And that's why this 2020 election is important. You might say, well, Michelle, Governor Sisolak is not up for re-election. What does it matter? This is what matters. We need to have a check. We need to have accountability. And that's why we need to elect the women that are on your screen right now, like Carrie Buck, April Becker, and Assemblywoman Krasner, and myself, because that is how we will bring a check and balance to our governor.
All right, Assemblywoman, do you want to chime in?
Sure. I would just like to say that in a critical situation like what was going on with COVID-19 and still is going on, communication is critical. Communication is so important, and I feel that the communication to the citizens of the state of Nevada by our governor could have been improved. Thank you.
Fair enough, fair enough. And April, do you want to close us out on this topic?
I'll put a little bit in, I'll add a little bit. I've been telling people for quite some time how important state politics are. A lot of people don't pay attention. They watch what's going on in Washington, D.C. I don't know if the news coverage is better on CNN and Fox. It's more exciting. I don't see 24-hour news coverage of the legislature in Nevada. But if this situation does not demonstrate how important state politics are, I don't know what is. No one shut down this state except our governor. This demonstrates how important state laws and state legislators are. These races are important. The people that you are electing make crucial decisions in your life. In the laws and the taxes, everything. It's so important. So if anything came from this good, I hope it was that we see how important it is to pay attention to your local politics, your state politics, and please participate.
Yeah, and I do want to comment too. I mean, I think that all of you make great points, and I really want to highlight, not just because I'm biased, and I a big fan of Lisa Krasner, but you know, you all of you will have to work with the governor up in Carson City, and it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough session, and so I think that, and you have 120 days, do or die, and so it's going to be very tough, and I think it's going to take real leadership, and I think you hear it from Assemblywoman Krasner's remarks. Measured remarks that it's at the end of the day, we're doing this for Nevadans, and it's going to be a real challenge. We're going to have to work with this governor at least this one more session. We'll see what happens next time. So next we're going to go and our next two topics have to deal with, you know what, how do I want to do this? I want to show you guys, if I can, for just a second. I'm going to share my screen. The next topic is about anti-Semitism and then hate in general. That we've kind of been talking about hate. We touched on racism a little bit in the civil unrest portion. But I want to show you guys, just to get a sense of the Israeli community that lives in Nevada. You know, we have a strong Jewish community that lives in the state. And I think a lot of people, I've spoken to a lot of you about the difference between the American Jewish community and the Israeli community. And with the Israeli community, it's really an immigrant community. It's a totally different experience. And so I just want to show, if I can here, let's bring it up. We're going to do a little PSA for voting. So let's do this here. All right, guys. So we're going to play this PSA, and then we'll comment on the next topic. Can you guys can't hear it, can you? Okay, give me 1 second. Let's see how we can do this here. Hold on. This is, let's try this one more time. Okay, let's do this. It's worth it. Hold on, I promise. This. Okay, you can see it. And now let's do. All right. All right, we'll give up on that. But the point is, we have a strong. It's live TV, guys. Michelle knows what we're talking about. You know, you have a strong immigrant community of Israelis living in Nevada. It's about 10 to 12,000. It's a real immigrant experience. And before we move into the anti-Semitism portion of the discussion, you know, when we think about Israelis who are living in the United States, you saw what you saw in the video. These are not necessarily white people or white Nevadans. They're people of all different colors. And with Israelis, you often see a confluence of discrimination. They're Jewish, so you experience anti-Semitism. They're people of color, so sometimes they experience color-based prejudice. They're immigrants, so sometimes there's immigrant bias. And so I want to touch on anti-Semitism and hate in general, because really from an Israeli perspective, there's this confluence and a real intersection of different forms of discrimination. So when we look at the recent spike in anti-Semitism and hate in this country, what would you do to try to combat it? What would you do to try to bring communities closer together and to try to foster mutual respect and tolerance? Who wants to go first? Randy? We'll do Randy, and then we'll do Assemblywoman Claxton. Go ahead, Randy.
I can't stress it enough. Education, education, education. You know, we hear the statistics. A third of millennials don't even believe the Holocaust happened. And we have how much historical data explaining and photographs and stories of survivors. It's a huge problem, specifically when we're living in a state that has the lowest education rating in the country. And when you're looking at the country as a whole, you're looking at, what are we, 17th, I think, from a literacy perspective. That's terrible. And that just goes to compounding the issues that we're having. And we seem to talk a lot, and a lot of people don't know that this was actually part of the catalyst that made me decide to run for Congress, was walking to synagogue after the Pittsburgh situation occurred and the massacre occurred there, and having to explain to my then 5-year-old what actual anti-Semitism was. And that broke my heart. And that was my catalyst to get involved, because we continue to talk about it. It's the same situation with Mr. Floyd and the accusations and the racial profiling that African Americans receive. It's the same thing as you just suggested for Jews. Basically, if they're Ashkenazi or Sephardic, we look very different based on where we're from in the world. And the discrimination is going to continue unless we educate. And I cannot stress that enough. It's lacking. It's lacking in our history lessons.
Thanks, Randy. Assemblywoman, you worked on this hard last session.
Yes, I did. Thank you. Let me first say that there is no room for hate. There's no room for anti-Semitism. I am opposed to discrimination. Nobody wants to be prejudiced against. Nobody wants to be discriminated against. And I'm opposed to those things, and will work hard to make sure that everybody here in the state of Nevada feels safe here, because I believe that Nevada is really the land of opportunity for people who want to work hard. In the last legislative session, I was very proud to work together with Dylan Hosier and Sigal Chattah on AB 257 to create the State of Nevada Holocaust Museum. Unfortunately, that did not pass through, but I believe there are some other works going on to still try to create that State of Nevada Holocaust Museum, and I'd love to continue to be a part of it. It would be an honor to me. In the next legislative session, if the people are kind enough to reelect me, I want to work on education. I'd like to be sure that children in grades K through 12 are educated about the Holocaust. I think it's just critical that we never forget what happened to millions of Jewish people in the Holocaust. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. We'll be working with you on that one. Dr. Buck. Go ahead.
And I would also like to join, Assemblywoman Krasner. I'm able to be and work with schools and have worked with schools. And so I've worked with the Zakor Foundation on helping to educate our students. We just make it a priority to go to the LA Holocaust Museum and make sure that every single 8th grader gets to go to on that field trip. Because education will help bring empathy and love and appreciation, sincere appreciation for other cultures. That's the only way. I agree with you, Randy. It's education is the key. It's teaching our youth that to love and embrace others and their similarities and differences, and how awesome our uniqueness is. So with both of you that it is education as the key.
All right, who's next? April, Michelle? Michelle, go ahead.
Sure. I really do think that education is very important. I don't think we talk about it enough in school, and I think we've seen that time and time again when other politicians across the country have said and have likened incidents to the Holocaust when it is nothing like that at all. I'm fortunate with my Jewish heritage. I know a lot of the stories from the Holocaust and anti-Semitism, but I also know that even there's a lack of education in a lot of cultures. I was ashamed to admit that I just learned on the anniversary of Black Wall Street what Black Wall Street was. I had never heard of it before. I had never been educated about it before. And it was the 99th anniversary of that tragic event. And so I only bring that up in that when we aren't learning about different cultures, when we aren't learning about different ethnicities, when we aren't learning that history, our own history, it is such a tragedy. And the minute that you open up your eyes, the minute that you receive that education, it is so much easier to combat hate, and it's so much easier to understand other people's stories and where they're coming from. So I think education is so crucial.
April, do you want to close us out on this one?
How do I add to this? It's education. I agree with everyone. I think it's so important. It's shocking when you hear statistics like that people either don't know about the Holocaust or even don't believe it. The evidence is overwhelming. It's so important for people to understand what happened so that it never happens again. And it's so important, a lesson to understand where hatred leads a culture, a people. I just, education, it's number one. It's probably the most important thing you could do to make sure that everyone understands and so that it never happens again.
Great. All right. Well, my Nevada chairwoman, Sigal, wants us to try one more time with the PSA. All right, guys. So let's give it a shot. Let's see if we can make this work. Here we go. All right, so you can see that now.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom. Shalom. I'm an Israeli American.
I am an Israeli American.
אני ישראלית אמריקאית.
שלום, אני ישראלי אמריקאי.
While Israel might be far away. Sure, it's pretty far.
Sure, it's pretty far. אנחנו ישראלים שחיים באמריקה.
We're Israelis and we're living here in America. And this year, we are getting out the vote.
We are getting out to vote.
גם אנחנו יכולים להשפיע. We're here to make sure you vote. כולנו מצביעים.
Vote.
Yes, we're voting. כולנו מצביעים.
We're diverse, we're different. We are definitely not the same. כן, אנחנו שונים. Some of us are immigrants.
And some of us were born here.
We have families.
And some of us are single.
We're from the left.
From the right. We're Republicans.
We're Republicans.
We're Democrats.
We're Democrats.
And we're all registered to vote.
It's time that we tell our leaders,
our senators,
our members of Congress,
our mayors, our governors.
This is our city, our state,
our district.
It's time that they know we're here. This is our city, our state, our district.
And we're constituents too.
איך אומרים? Constituents.
And we're
And we're constituents too. That's our.
Israel זה הבית שלי. Israel is our homeland. America is our home.
Israel is our heritage. Israel is our culture.
Israel is our heritage. And like any immigrant community, our culture,
our heritage,
is important to us. Israel may seem like it's a world away, but we're here.
We're here.
אנחנו כאן, but we're here.
And we're ready to vote.
And we're ready to vote.
אנחנו כאן, and we're ready to vote.
This has been a message from the Israeli American Civic Action Network. Okay, constituents.
Perfect. Thank you.
I got it right on my first.
Constituents. Constituents.
All right, so you check out israelusa.org, vote, and you will get all of your ballot information and election information. So did that work okay, guys? Good? Great, great. All right, so let's unmute you guys. So for our next topic, we want to talk about the U.S.-Nevada relationship. Let's go ahead and pull this up. So as you know, in Nevada, there has been historically a water issue with conservation and recycling. We're proud, and I'm proud to say that Israel and Nevada have a relationship on water research and development. This partnership was started by Governor Sandoval back during back during his administration, and as a result of this, I think between 15 and 20 new companies have come to Nevada from Israel, focused on water recycling and conservation. So as we look at Nevada and try to diversify the economy, this is one of those areas where there's a lot of opportunity. And then we look at things like cybersecurity with the Switch data center down in the south. You've got the UAV technology with Creech. They're also in Nevada. A lot of opportunities. What would you do to strengthen the Nevada-Israel relationship now that you've seen some Israelis firsthand who are living here in the United States? And what would you do also to help strengthen, maybe this is for you, Randy, the U.S.-Israel relationship? So Randy, why don't we start with you on the U.S., then we'll go to the others for Nevada.
Sure. I mean, you literally just listed 5 sectors out of how many hundreds of sectors that, let alone Nevada, and you said, from a federal perspective, the United States. I think this is a fantastic segue as to why the BDS movement is so horrid. I mean, if we were to actually enact BDS and this type of, I don't even know what you call it, garbage, really.
You know what they call BDS? You just take out the D.
Ah, there you go. Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you think about that, we would be missing out on so many new innovations. I mean, a lot of people don't realize, but Israel actually spent the most on research and development. They allocate so much of their GDP just for research and development. Imagine missing out on that because you're so ignorant. You're so ignorant to try to alienate Israel. And I think this became most prevalent during this COVID breakout when we recognized how much of our reliance for the United States was based on other countries, specifically China, right? 90% of our PPE manufacturing, 90% of our prescription drugs are made overseas. That's a real significant problem for our American citizens and what it does to cost and demand. And so when you're looking at potential COVID vaccines coming from Israel and you think about the illogic behind BDS, it's the perfect example. You can't create a better example. And so I think we not only as Nevadans need to embrace that. You listed fantastic projects that we all know about, Switch, Ivanpa, the AV at Creech, the AI advancements that we're learning about. And why would we stifle that? Why would we stifle that? And our relationship with Israel has been so strong. They are one of our strongest allies obviously from a federal position and a national position. Why would we ever put anything like that in jeopardy, that relationship? And thankfully with our president currently, he's the most pro-Israel president we've ever seen. So as long as we continue in this path, imagine what we're going to be seeing in a year from technological advances. We should have no boundary.
Well, hopefully we'll see something come from the medical sector on the coronavirus COVID-19 issue. I know that senators, I think it was Ted Cruz and I can't remember the guy from Delaware, Chris Coons, put out introduced a bill to strengthen cooperation specifically on the coronavirus. Right. And I believe that was included in the recent foreign aid package that was just passed out of the Foreign Affairs Committee in the Senate. So hopefully that'll be making its way to the Senate floor soon and then over to the House. Who wants to go next on the Nevada side? Assemblywoman, do you want to comment?
Sure, happy to go next.
Sure.
I think that, well, first of all, I really liked that video. Thank you for showing it. Sure. I think that it's very important to strengthen the Nevada-Israel relationship. America is a melting pot in the land of opportunity. Nevada is a melting pot in the land of opportunity. Everyone is welcome here. The Jewish community is welcome here. The Israeli-American community is welcome here. Everyone is welcome here in Nevada. It really is the land of opportunity. In the 2017 Nevada legislative session, I was really proud to work with you, Dylan, and Sigal Chattah on the anti-BDS legislation that was sponsored by Lieutenant Governor Mark Hutchison. That did pass through, and that was really a sense of pride to see something like that, the anti-BDS legislation pass through and show where Nevada really stands as a partner with Israel. And I did want to say that anybody in the Jewish community or Israeli American community that wants to reach out to me, that has ideas for bills or issues or concerns, please feel free to do so. my cell phone number is on the internet for anyone in the whole world to call me. So feel free.
Yeah, I will say too. Gosh, how could I forget that? How could I forget SB 26? I'm still. I've got the scars to prove that one. I think you do too. We worked great together on that one, and it was great to work. We should give a shout out to Lieutenant Governor Hutchison. He was really amazing leading on that. And I will say too that was a great example of where that was a time when the legislature had Democrats had taken control of the legislature. You had a Republican lieutenant governor, and somehow, some way, we made it through. And Assemblywoman, you were really key to that process. So thank you again, Michelle.
Yeah, I think one of the things she touched on that is so spot on is that we do need to also get to know our constituents. One of the things I loved about that video was each of them trying to say the word constituents, and they are constituents, and we need to have accessibility to them, and they need to have accessibility to us, so that we can really talk about the issues and the type of legislation that may need to come up pertaining exactly to them, so that we can build a better foundation. I always like to say Las Vegas is a bright and shining city on a hill, not just because we got a lot of lights, but because we truly are we are a great example of opportunity. We are a great example of what can be done so well here. I mean, when you think about it, we have one of the best prisoner reentry programs in the nation, with one of the lowest recidivism rates in the nation. After 10/1, we watched this community come together where people of all different religions, all different races, they all came together to help their fellow man. We are a fantastic community. And I would hate to think that there was any member of our constituency that didn't feel heard, felt that they weren't seen, and didn't have a place to communicate. And I also think we have to stop looking at this issue, Israel, as a right or left issue. As you said, was so eloquently put in that video, there are people in the Jewish community who are Republicans. There are people in the Jewish community who are Democrats, but we should be viewing the Israeli community as one. I think you and I have talked about this before. I was so disappointed during the presidential debate, the Democratic presidential debate here in Las Vegas, because so many of the candidates at that time were asked what they would do. Would they continue to recognize Jerusalem as the capital? And, Bernie Sanders and Bloomberg couldn't even answer that question. We have to put this partisan nonsense aside, and we really have to be about what's right. We really have to be about the people. We really have to be on the right moral edge here, you know what I mean? And I think too often we make this a right or left thing, and it's not a right or left thing. It's a people thing, and it's about what's right. It's about what's moral. It's about doing the right thing. So I think all of that is, and I know all these women, so I know that we all believe that, and we're all going to do that.
Perfect. Well, I do want to, before we get to April and Dr. Buck, I do want to say our chairwoman, Sigal Chana, did have a quick bonus question. And Michelle, since you kind of touched on it, for all of you here, this is a bonus round question. What is the capital of Israel? You could just shout it out. Let me unmute you all here. Hold on. And April, Dr. Buck, you have to unmute yourself. But go ahead. What is the capital of Israel? Oh, wait, Randy, hold on. There you go. Now, go. Jerusalem. Jerusalem. Will we work to keep it always the capital of Israel? Yes.
Yes, absolutely, 110%. Yeah.
Fantastic.
That was a fantastic day when President Trump did that. It was such a monumentous day, and I hope none of us ever forget it.
Absolutely. All right. So, Dr. Bucker, April Becker.
My phone is probably high in case.
Go ahead.
Do you want me to go?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Well, to add on to everything that everyone has already said, I think that this demonstrates the importance of the group that you've started here and how you can advise others, and you are going to be so much better versed than any one of us individually could be. And that's why this group is so important. I think it is there to educate the people that are in office and to highlight the best ways that you think that we can create and continue that relationship with Israel and Nevada. That's why I think that just highlights what you've done, and thank you for putting this together and caring. So I just think that that's the most important thing we can do, is just listen to groups like yours and follow your advice.
Thank you, April. And Dr. Buck, are you, if you can, let's see, she's having some technical problems, but maybe we'll get her back. All right, so we are kind of closing in on the end of tonight's session. So I want to give each of you a moment to close out, just to give some closing thoughts. We'll go in the order that we started. So Randy, if you will go ahead and close us out. Thank you.
Well, I echo the sentiments. Thank you so much for creating ICAN. It's important that Israeli Americans have a voice. There's a very different thought process. I can say this because I'm Jewish. I'm a Jewish American. There's a very different thought process when it comes to Jewish American versus Israeli American. But I think Michelle said it best. At the end of the day, we're all American, and that's what we're fighting for. And that's really why I'm running for Congress. I'm not looking to be famous. I don't really care about being the center of attention. It's about the people. It's always been about the people. I've always been involved in community service and charitable work, and this is just more on a grand scale. I have an 8-year-old son. He's my why, and we talk about it every day. Again, see a need, fill a need. And right now, I am seeing a need within our House of Representatives where people such as all of us on the call are not represented well, when we have career politicians and lifetime lobbyists making laws that affect every single one of us all day. That's a real problem. We need people that have business sense. They really understand their constituents, and they can pronounce it. But that's what we're looking out for. It's always about leading and representing, and that's what I intend to do. So I stopped fundraising about 2 months ago to be respectful to my community. I don't intend to start today, but I will ask for your vote because I know there's still ballots out there. So again, thank you for this platform. Thank you to Sigal and Milan. You guys are so supportive of this community and everything that you do for Israel and America. So thank you guys, and thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks, Randy. And we'll all get a chance to say goodnight at the end here. But thanks again, Randy.
Yeah, I'm kidding.
All right, go ahead. All right, so let's go ahead and go to Assemblywoman Krasner. Close this out.
Thank you, Dylan. I would first like to say thank you again to ICAN for this opportunity. My name is Lisa Krasner. It's an honor for me to represent the people of Nevada in their government. And I am running for State Assembly District 26, up for re-election. I would sincerely appreciate the people's vote in the primary election on June 9th. Please remember to vote. Every vote is important. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. And let's see who is next. We have April Becker. April, go ahead.
Yes, thank you for having me, Dylan. Thank you for involving me in your group. I'm running, again, my name is April Becker. I'm running for State Senate in District 6. I'm running because I think it's time that Nevadans are put first. Nevada is first, where they belong, and I want to truly represent the people in my district. I want to make decisions and laws that help the people of our state.
Thanks, April. And we'll go to Michelle.
I just want to thank you again for allowing us to be here, giving us this opportunity to speak, and for the endorsements that you've given each and every single one of us. I know that as a woman of Jewish heritage, a woman of Jewish descent, it means a lot to be endorsed by you. So thank you so much for that. And I think one of the things, the common threads that you see amongst all of us is that we want to build a better Nevada. We want to have a better world for our children. We want to have a better place for seniors. We want to have a better place for businesses. We just want the Silver State to be the very best that it can be. And each and every single one of us brings something so unique to the table to help us build a better Nevada, because you can't do it with just one person. You can't do it with just one idea. You can't just do it with one knowledge. We've got Carrie, who knows so much about education. education. We've got April, who knows so much about the law. I'm your media gal, and I'm full of passion, and I know I get really heated at times, but sometimes we need that, because we need to be passionate about the state. We need to be passionate about the laws that we're doing, and we need to be passionate about making real change. This isn't the time for tepid responses. This is the time to truly care about our community and our constituency. And I just thank you again for this opportunity.
Can you hear me? Okay. I just can't hear you. Sorry. So closing thoughts. I really would like to be your senator, be of service to the constituents in SD5. And if April or I are elected, if I'm elected, I will serve the entire state. And so my door is always open. My cell phone number, like Assemblywoman Krasner's, is all over the internet. And I do want to be of service, as I've done the past 20 years in serving students and families in Southern Nevada and putting them first. That's what I want to do as your senator. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Dr. Buck. I'm glad you're able to join us there at the end. And I'm going to unmute you guys, and we can just all together say a thank you and good night. So I want to thank you guys so much. Thank you to all the viewers who joined us. It was really great to see all of you. Randy, great to see you again. I've seen you in person in real life before the pandemic. And Assemblywoman, I look forward to working with you again. And it's really, really, really good to see you. And all of you who I haven't met in person, I look forward to seeing you in person at the very least next session. So thank you all, and have a good night.
Thank you, Dylan.
Thank you.
Have a good night, ladies.
All right.